The dreaded Tell Me About Yourself video. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services that I co-own with my amazing wife, Brooke. And now on to our topic. The dreaded Tell Me About Yourself video. At our taping service, Get Taped, we're seeing an increasing trend in self-tape auditions requiring a Tell Me About Yourself video. Sometimes it's completely wide open. Sometimes casting gives you sample prompts to answer, like, what are your hobbies? And sometimes they have a hyper-specific question that they need you to answer. No matter what the situation, actors categorically recoil at the thought of talking about themselves. Which is kind of funny if you think about it, because we've chosen a profession where we're asking people to stare at us constantly, and yet when asked to talk about ourselves, we shy away. It makes sense though. There's an old saying that goes, give a person a mask and they'll show you the truth, or something like that. In other words, when we're able to hide behind the facade of a character, it gives us the freedom to paradoxically be ourselves and maybe reveal a truth about humanity. But take that facade away and ask us to tell something real about ourselves? That makes us feel naked, self-conscious, and basically just want to do a hard pass. Nope. But for these types of videos, I want to address 3 different topics. What does casting really want us to share? Is it a chance to get a leg up over your competition? And are there things you should not say in these videos? So let's take these one at a time. What does casting really want us to share? Like I said in the intro, sometimes these auditions come with explicit instructions to tell us about your favorite birthday or whatever. But whether the instructions do or do not have a specific question that you have to answer, here's a little secret. It doesn't really matter what you share most of the time, because we'll address what not to say at the end of the video. In fact, they likely gave you that sample question as just tracks to run on, because they know that if they just ask you generically to tell us about yourself, that will cause a lot of anxiety in the actor. So in other words, there is no secret answer they're waiting to hear. And when the prompt is more open-ended, like the dreaded, tell us about yourself, still, there is no perfect answer. They're not manipulating you or tricking you or trying to stress you out. They just want you to be you. You know, be authentic. So they don't really care how many siblings you have or where you were born, unless it's a truly fascinating story, or any of the other facts of your life. Sure, that will fill up the time, but it's rarely what they're actually interested in. Side note, if you're auditioning for a prescription drug commercial and the question they ask you is, what relationship do you have to this condition? Well, then yes, they are actually interested in the facts of your story, but that's not what this video is about. So don't stress over what story to tell. Instead, realize this is just a quick opportunity to show who you are between takes, who you're going to be for 8 to 12 hours on set, etc. Presumably they're asking for this video because they're going to cast you straight off of the tape, and it just makes them feel more secure in their choice if they can get to know the real you, and not just the person they saw in character during your audition. In short, don't stress about what to say, and if they do give you a time limit, stick to it. If they give you 20 to 30 seconds and you're like, well, my story about the Galapagos Island probably won't fit into that time frame, then don't tell that story. Because again, they're just trying to get an overall sense of your personality. One last insight though, if your audition, if the character you're playing is very dark, stoic, maybe evil, then you could use your story as a chance to show your fun, lighter side of your personality. Just a thought. And this leads into our next question. Is it a chance to get a leg up over your competition? Short answer, no. That is, having a more ridiculous story than the next person is not going to be the reason you get cast. However, if in telling that story, you reveal a real, true, authentic version of yourself, then that will be memorable and it will stand out. But again, they won't necessarily remember your story. They'll remember you. I hope this makes sense. Let me put it one more way. They're not interested in the content of your story. They're interested in the content of you. So you're not really competing against the other actors per se, but really competing against your own unwillingness to be real, natural, and authentic. I've watched actors prepare a perfectly rehearsed 30-second story that comes across as stilted and robotic. Nothing about that will be memorable, at least not in a good way, and it will actually hurt your chances of being cast. Complete random side note. The past tense of cast is cast. It's not casted. You weren't casted in a project. You were cast in a project. That is a huge pet peeve of everyone in the industry. So don't make that mistake. But I digress. So in the instance of a commercial casting where Arguably, your personality is extremely important to whether or not you get cast. This Tell Me About Yourself video can have a big impact on whether or not you get considered. But again, there's no magic formula for what to say. Well, I take that back. Graduates of the Sam Christensen image process have an entire catalog of tools available to them that will make these personality videos stand out and be memorable. But it's hyper-specific to the individual, which is why it would do me no good to try to give you examples. And if you want more information on the Sam Christensen process, check out the show notes below. And finally, are there things you should not say in these videos? The short answer, yes. While the things you should say are not entirely obvious, as we've discovered today, there are some topics that will range from being unhelpful to boring to even offensive. For instance, talking about your hometown or how many siblings you have can be boring. The youngest of 4, I was born in South Florida, about maybe 45 minutes north of Miami. Well, maybe it's closer to an hour. See, this is boring. You don't care. Unless you're from that exact same area, it's not going to resonate with you. And I'm not really showing my personality. So maybe stay away from those topics. That is, unless there's something really unique about where you were born or your family. But if you're just doing it to take up time, well, then you might put them to sleep and you've wasted an opportunity to connect with them at a deeper level. Using foul language when the project is meant to be G-rated might not be a good idea. Mentioning the college you went to might seem like a good idea, especially if you're auditioning for, let's say, a beer commercial. But man, some people are extremely territorial about colleges. For instance, I went to Duke, and if I were to say that in my personality video, and the director happens to be a UNC graduate, well, there's a good chance I won't book that commercial. Because Duke is the arch nemesis of UNC. And even though you may have graduated 20, 30 years ago, those rivalries stay with you. So why risk not getting that job? Now, they'll come up with some other legitimate reason why they're not considering me for that role. But in the back of their minds, I put that sour taste in their mouth and they just can't get it out. The same can go for any professional sports affiliations you might have. Likewise, getting intensely political or religious, unless it was asked for, could be polarizing. Please hear me though when I say that I'm not asking you to compromise your beliefs in any way, or to squash them, or to hide them. No. But in today's society, we've become so binary on issues, with no room for compromise or hearing alternative opinions. So once you make your stance known, you may alienate those who are in charge of hiring you. Is that right or fair? Probably not. But if you find it necessary to be polarizing in your video, then how are you going to be on set? That's what they're thinking. And this entire business is built on relationships. So if they don't think they're going to have any fun with you on the day, or to the other extreme, they think you actually might be a liability when you're on set, well, then you're not giving them a lot of reason to cast you. Side note, this also extends to how you present yourself on social media. Casting directors and agents and other decision makers are watching. And if they start to piece together that you're an instigator, or that you don't have a very good temperament, or you're just not empathetic to other humans, then it builds a pretty sour picture of you in their minds. So in conclusion, be smart about what you talk about. Remember, the facts you include don't matter nearly as much as whether or not you revealed who you are. Your true, authentic self. And I'm serious when I say the Sam Christensen process gives you so many tools to navigate this problem of the personality video. So if these videos where they ask you to tell me about yourself are your arch nemesis, then be sure to check out those show notes below about the Sam Christensen process. The link will take you to a page where you can learn more, but also see when we are having our next free preview event, which we do periodically throughout the year. Best part is we do them over Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Because in the end, these videos should be a welcomed opportunity and not some dreaded obstacle that you have to get past. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.